Hey gorgeous, this is episode number 165 with the amazing Powerhouse Connector, Lisa Patrick.
Hi, this is Lisa Patrick, and you're listening to Heart Cells podcast with Christine Schlonski. Enjoy.
Well, I'm so happy you're here for this episode because it took me such a long time to get Lisa on the show and to have this wonderful conversation with her. You will love what you hear, and Lisa is going to share steps that you can take to make it easier for you to connect in networking situations, to really show up with confidence. She's going to teach us the platinum rule of communication, amongst other amazing things that she has used in her business to make it into a thriving business. Lisa Patrick is a highly sought after business development specialist and a successful serial entrepreneur. She is known as a Powerhouse Connector and has an impressive client portfolio of leading influencers, personal expert brands and companies such as Grant Cardone, Hopkins, and Sharon Lechter. So let's tune in and find out what she did that worked so amazingly well for her. Well, I am so excited to have you on the show today, Lisa. Welcome.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure to have this wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, and we've been looking for quite a while to match our calendars. So finally, we made it. And I'm so super excited because you are a powerhouse connector and an expert for edge learning. So what is that?
Well, edge learning really is the ability to not just survive, but thrive in this emerging trend of edge learning. And it's really a way to augment a higher education and to enhance your collegiate and your post-collegiate. So it's really, if you think about it, it's all those edge skills that you have, communication, sales, networking, internal and external, like your assessments and so forth, that really help you gain a competitive edge and get a successful and more fulfilled life. That's what edge learning really is.
Yeah, it's so important, especially for entrepreneurs. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you're always learning, right? There is no stop to that.
Well, if you want to be successful, you're absolutely always learning.
Yeah, I just assumed that every entrepreneur wants to be successful, but that's
we hope so. I mean, that's why we're here today, right? We're here to help people, help the listeners.
Yeah, yes, totally. So what are you seeing in your work, especially with these entrepreneurs who just love what they do? They're totally passionate about their work. But then when it comes to bringing it actually to the market, when it comes to making an invitation for somebody to buy or stating their price, they cringe. Is there anything that you see that they could do to make life easier?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. I think, first of all, in sales, and you and I both know, because I followed you for a long time, Christine, and you're an expert in sales, and people need to understand how to communicate to each other genuinely and authentically. And when you start to become your authentic, genuine self, you don't need to sell anybody on anything. People will just gravitate towards you, and they'll generally want to work with you. And if you add value in everything that you do, in every communication that you have, and you don't just practice the golden rule, which really is treat others the way that you want to be treated, but you practice the platinum rule. You know what the platinum rule is, Christine?
No, what? Now I'm excited to learn it.
So Dr. Tony Alessandro, who's the number one communication guru in the world and happens to be a colleague and a close personal friend, he says, treat others the way that they want to be treated. When you adapt your communication style and the way that you add value in your relationships, it changes everything. I'm not saying remove the golden rule, but I am saying if you practice the platinum rule, many things will change for you and life will be much easier.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And this reminds me actually of a children's story that I've heard long time ago. And it's called, it's a turtle's birthday. And all her friends are coming and, the lion brings her a piece of meat. And, everybody brings her, like they wanted to be treated. And then at the end of the day, right before she's kind of giving up on this magical birthday, somebody brings her a salad and she is totally happy. And
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful, because I think part of the problem is that we think about, well, how do I want to be treated? And then when we're, prospecting or we're networking, we're thinking, okay, if I want to be treated this way, then let's treat that person that way. But what happens if they don't receive that way? That's not how they view things that way. That's not how they want to be treated. And so when you start to understand your behavioral style and your personality, and then be able to adapt according to the person across, things are magical. Things change for you instantly. I know it did for me.
Yeah. I totally get that. And it's such an important point, especially when we want to nurture deep relationships, when we really want to win the next amazing customer that works with us forever, right?
Yeah.
Or brings us, more business, more referrals, and then become just a huge fan. That is really something. And you reminded me that I have the challenge, even though I know, to ask people where I can reach them, right? Is it, where do you hang out most? Is it email? Is it Facebook Messenger? Is it WhatsApp? Whatever.
Yep.
I have a challenge to adapt, right? Because I need to remember, what did they say? Well, this is the easier part. And then I also need to get out of my routine to just send the quick message on Messenger when they prefer email. Because in Messenger, they might not even see it for a week, while email, they pick it up in 10 minutes. And this comes back to the platinum rule. It's part of it.
Exactly. Well, and follow up. I mean, you and I both know, I can't count on my fingers and hands and toes and body parts how many people don't follow up.
Yes.
And that's part of the problem. You spend all this time trying to prospect and create a relationship and get the connection, but then you never follow up and you lose everything. It's ridiculous. Like, follow up is king in any sales process, in any relationship. I don't care if it's a sales or, you just want to network with somebody or whatever it happens to be. But if you do not follow up, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah. And do you have advice for that? Because I know for me, it kind of changed when I dropped the belief that the other person might not be interested in the extras I had to, or, I communicated. For example, in the beginning of my sales career, I never talked something about my private life. And I really had to drop this belief that the other person doesn't care, because as soon as I started to make some comments, most of the time they were picked up and we had a wonderful side conversation. And it really helped the relation to flourish. Yeah. So in the follow-up, I see often that people think, well, they are not interested. And therefore they don't want to be pushy or salesy, so they just drop it.
Well, I think in the follow-up, I think one of the most common mistakes that people make when they're networking, sales, it doesn't matter, establishing business relationships long-term, for partnerships or whatever it happens to be, kids, family, parents. I think you have to remember that it is never about you. It is always about them. And so if you're adding value and you're trying to find ways to learn about them and to help them and support them, then they'll always, it might not be that they're interested in your first follow-up, but the second day they're interested in that follow-up, or the third. So I think if you always keep in mind that it's about them and not you, and you tailor your communication, whether it's on message or chat or whatever it happens to be, about them, you'll win.
Yeah, it's so true. It's always like, when it gets difficult, switch the focus. Don't make it about you, make it about them.
Yeah. People don't buy products and services. People buy into people. It's Tom Hopkins, close personal friend, sales legend, will tell you that all day long. Yeah,
totally. It's and I know you also working with Sharon Lechter. And
yes,
she has co-written the book 3 Feet from Gold. This just reminds me that so many people are giving up these 3 feet from gold, right?
Exactly. And if we assume somebody else is not interested, then they're not going to be interested. right? I think that in your relationships, you just have to think about what's in it for them and then deliver on it every single time.
Yeah.
Eventually, they're going to come around and ask about you.
So when you set out for business, what was the biggest difference that you made for yourself for making your business work and flourish? Was it those relationships, or did you find like some kind of shortcut, or like what did you have to do?
It's funny you ask that, because I think my biggest challenge was networking. I'd always go into a room and I was absolutely petrified. I mean, there was many times early in my career where I turned around and not even go to the event because I was so afraid to go into the room because I didn't know anybody and I didn't know how to have a conversation with somebody that was genuine. I was shaking in my boots, literally. And it happened time and time again. And then the click really changed for me when I thought I have to push myself out of the comfort zone. I have to go to these events if I want to have a successful career. If I genuinely want to meet these people, one, I have to get over the fact that they're greater personalities or influencers or what have you than me, and just have a conversation. And so I made a game of it. I still remember like it was yesterday, the very first time that I went into this room, and there was about 45 people in the room, and they were professional speakers. So, talk about intimidating. And thinking, okay, what am I going to do? And so I started making a game of it. And I had in my mind, I had a little card and I had put 5 questions on that card. And I thought, I'm not going to talk to every single person in the room. So if you're listening right now and you think that you're going to go to an event and you're going to make 100 relationships, you're not. If you walk away with 1 to 3 strategic, good relationships, that is a win. So to get the idea of quality, it's quality versus quantity.
Yeah.
So what I did was those 5 questions, I targeted to 5 people. And one particular lady had a gorgeous handbag. And I don't know about you, Christine, but I love handbags.
Oh.
So I just approached her and said, where did you get that handbag? And she started talking to me. And 20 minutes later, we had built a connection and a rapport all over one very simple question that had nothing to do with what I did, why we were there. It was really about her handbag. And that was a light bulb moment for me, when it was just like, just ask normal questions, So, I have a list now of 25 questions, and I use them at every networking event. And it has definitely changed the way that I start relationships.
I love it. And I think about the handbag, you have to be genuine, right? Don't make just something up. Like, now I heard that I can ask about a handbag. So the next handbag I see, I'm going to have the conversation. I think people will feel it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I can get really excited about beautiful pieces like handbags or shoes or clothes. Like if I really like that, I want to have that conversation.
Exactly. Well, and I have a cheat sheet list, so I'm happy to share it with you so you can share it with your viewers of the 25 questions that I ask on a continuous.
I would love to. Yeah. Can you give us 3 examples for right now?
Sure.
And then I'm happy to put it up in the show notes.
Yeah. So one example would be, what is the greatest lesson you have learned from an enemy? Not a mentor, not anybody that you've learned or followed as an influencer. What is the best advice that you've ever received? And what's the worst advice? And my favorite really is, if you were stranded on an island, what's the one thing that you would do or take? So I want to know, what's your answer? You were stranded on the island. What's the one thing you would do or take?
I probably would say my laptop, but if there is no Wi-Fi, it's not going to help.
Remember, you're stranded on an island.
What would I take? I got everything inside, like my happiness. What would I take? I'd probably take my husband.
Your husband?
Yeah.
Well, and you'd be surprised that the real answer is, well, I'd take a boat so I could get off the island.
Well, I think I
Because I'm
do like
stranded there.
islands. That's the issue.
Yeah,
And we just
but
chatted a
it
little bit about
generates,
the weather, but that's a really smart answer.
yeah,
That's
like
like a
because
strategic answer, right?
exactly. But what it does is it generates the thinking process and something that's abstract to strike a conversation. And that's really all you want to do is you're looking to strike a conversation. And eventually everything will come back to, what do you do for a living? Who are you? Lots of women will ask, do you have any children? I have twin daughters. And so it's a great way to build a connection. It's a great way to build a connection with the gentleman. You can look at their attire, and if they're wearing a golf shirt, perhaps they golf. Ask them if they golf. Like, it doesn't have to be. The worst thing that drives me crazy, Christine, is when somebody comes up and they start pitching me right away.
Ooh, yes.
Don't pitch. Just have a conversation. You'll get to the pitch. I promise you.
Yeah. If everything is aligned, people want to know more.
Yeah.
And if they need what you offer, they gravitate to you.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So what can an entrepreneur do who maybe just started out or who didn't have such a good start and they're really looking for clients right now? What would you recommend if they feel like, it's all good with the relationship building, but it feels a little long and I'm under pressure?
Long sales cycles, the enemy of all enemies. Well, I think, first of all, you have to find you need to find the solution to the person's problem. And so as soon as you can do that, I work with some executive CEOs that are transitioning out of corporate America. They're looking to leverage their education and their expertise, get what's in their noggin out, and then go and find clients. And when you work in corporate America and then you become an entrepreneur, there's a lot of challenges that you face because you're used to having all those divisions. You're used to having a human resource and a marketing and all these divisions that allow you to function in the C-suite. And now you don't have that anymore. And there's a lot of challenges with that. So it's interesting that you asked that question, because the number one thing that I always say is, what is the one thing that you have that you can add value immediately to somebody or anybody at any given time that reduces the sales cycle and allows you to instantly add value?
Such a great question. So I think getting clear about that's really personal. Everybody brings amazing gifts to the table. Also, I see that often people can't see how brilliant they are.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think part of the success is asking really good questions. The more questions that you ask of somebody, the more information you're going to get to be able to tailor your response and leverage your skills and what you have for services and offerings and products and whatever to them that's going to solve their problem. So asking questions, and lots of them, is really I think the fastest way to reduce your sales cycle.
Yeah. And it helps you to understand where the other person is.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
You don't need to give them like your big package if they only need a piece out of it. You can tailor it to their needs, and that's everybody's going to be happy.
Yep. Well, and at one point in my career, a really great expert said to me, he says, the one thing that you really need to ask somebody is, what is the biggest challenge that they're faced with? And two, if you had a magic wand, what would you do to solve that problem? And those two questions really have served me very well in my relationships of, coaching and so forth, and helping clients really leverage what they have in their toolbox to go to market and make money.
Yeah, I love it. So that's something we can all ask ourselves.
Yeah. And it applies. It doesn't matter if you're, you have a product, you have a service, you have the best toilet seat in the world, but nobody knows about it. Once you start asking those questions, it's going to solve somebody's problem somewhere. You just got to ask the right questions. You
got to ask the right question, and you have to put yourself out there. So make it a game, make it easy for you. Do you think, well, probably that's also a question, introvert, extrovert.
Yeah.
Extroverts probably have it easier in the networking setting, but also like asking the great questions, that's pretty good for introverts.
Yeah. Well, and I'm actually an introvert I am not, most people who meet me go, oh my God, you're so outgoing and and all these things, right? But I'm actually really, truly genuinely at my core an introvert. I like to be alone. I thrive to be alone. I need my alone time, my private time. I can be an extrovert when need be. But it's not really who I am at my core. And so I think you really have to understand who you are in order to be effective for other people.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that was something when I did my coach training, which totally wowed me because I never really thought of where I was on that scale. Some people would say, well, you're an extrovert. And then others would say, well, you're so introverted. And I'm like, okay, well, that's confusing. And, coming time to find out, I'm more or less in the middle. So the energy I need to be more introverted or extroverted is it's the same energy. So it's kind of nice to have that choice.
Exactly.
But it's also nice to understand how you are wired, because then you can understand other people so much better. Once I understood that an introvert needs great questions to be asked, and then you get amazing answers. My whole world changed.
Exactly. Well, extroverts love to talk about themselves. So asking great questions with the extrovert works. Everything boils down to really great questions. Just ask questions. People love to talk about themselves, introverts or extroverts. And, you'd be amazed at what you find out when you start asking questions.
Yeah. When you're really interested, I think it's really difficult to just ask. Find out of all these questions, find one that really is interesting for you, that you would love to have an answer to, because the other person will feel that you are genuine, and then they want to answer your question. Because, that's what we like to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you need to respond and reciprocate back and forth with that authenticity, right? Because people will read through that instantly. Yes. Instantly, they'll figure it out real quick. We've all had those times where we have that icky, sleazy, slimy salesperson that's, and Kendrick Shope uses that all the time, right? Icky, sleazy, slimy salesperson. And, we genuinely know who that person is within the first 30 seconds of a conversation. It's pretty easy to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. And also, if you feel like you have to be this way to make a sale or to invite somebody, don't make it that difficult for yourself.
Exactly.
Being yourself, right? That will allow you to drop a lot of weight and a lot of worry. What's the other person going to think? How will they, in which drawer will they put me? How can I go on in this conversation? When you're you, it's so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you have to be confident and have the courage to be you too, right? And sometimes that's, when you're young and you're in your career and you're trying to make a good impression, and, you have all these other stresses that when you're older and more seasoned in life, you don't have those same pressures. You have the confidence, you've had the experiences to allow you to be that level of confidence. And so, for somebody who's listening right now, if you're listening and you're younger, don't worry about what somebody else thinks, because chances are you're probably not going to ever see them again in a networking environment, or maybe you will. And you know what? As long as you admit to your mistakes and you're authentically who you are, the world's your oyster.
Yeah. And they might not even think about you at all. That's another
Exactly. This is true.
They are busy with whatever they are busy with. Right?
Yeah, they got 1,000 other things on their mind. And the fact that you slipped up and said the wrong word or whatever, or made a fool of yourself, is the least relevant thing on the top of their mind.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Awesome. Well, this was a wonderful first episode. Where can we send people so they can get more of you? Obviously, I will put everything in the show notes, but where can we send them right now?
Well, 2 places. I'm coming out with a book in the spring, so I'm excited about that. So you're going to find me on Amazon very soon. And lisapatrick.ca is my website. And, you find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn at Lisa Patrick BFD. And that's for another story.
Okay, well, that's for another episode, I think.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much, Lisa. It was a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to our next interview.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I really hope that this episode was very valuable for you, because I had to also learn how to ask better questions, especially when I started in sales and I wanted to have a bigger impact and actually sell more, because you need to connect with the people from heart to heart. And Lisa has showcased this in such a beautiful way with her own success story. So I hope you are inspired and you are looking forward to your next conversation where you can actually ask these amazing questions. So hop on over to christineschlonski.com, find the podcast tab, and make sure you find Lisa's episode and connect with her on social media. Check out her website and the amazing podcast she has, Coffee with Lisa. And also I want to invite you to join the Heart-Centered Lead Generation Summit, which you also will find at the heartcenteredleadgenerationsummit.com or at christineschlonski.com, where we make sure that you can't miss it when you hop on to this page. Thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in this beautiful world. And I'm saying bye for now.